Alright, so this is my... It's been so long since last time I've done this. I think this is my 6th podcast. It's been like 5 months. No, it's been like 10 months since my last one. And you're the first guest that has no substantial meaning to the public.
Jesus.
This is my friend Jameson. We've been friends for a lot of years.
Probably since we've known each other.
We've known each other since 5th grade.
5th grade?
6th grade. 5th grade. 5th. I feel like it was 5th grade. And then 6th grade, y'all moved on.
6th grade, I went to a different league for baseball, and then
Yeah, so it was 5th grade. We've known each other since 5th grade.
reunited freshman year of high school.
Yeah. We met. A lot of our stories involve baseball. A lot of our good stories involve baseball.
Some of the other ones we can't really put on this, but get into that later.
So you've been my best friend for a little over 3 years now. Not much over 3 years, but
Pretty close to it.
A little over 3 years now. And God, it's been
a hell of a ride.
That's the only words that can come to my mind.
Yep.
We've gone through a lot. We've gone through car wrecks, suspensions. Like you said, things we can't really go over on here.
We might be able to get into one or two of them, but not the whole stories.
We've gone through arguments, never me and you, but we've been...
Oh, we've argued, but it's not a substantial argument.
But we've never, fought.
Those arguments are about as important as I am, according to Presley, to the public.
Okay, listen. Here's what I meant by that. My first two were about college football and, what was going on at the time. And I've kind of veered away from that. I veered more towards interviewing people and just telling stories and, getting a view for who somebody is. So my third one was with Preston whenever he was going through his... you were there. You weren't...
I didn't pay much attention.
You weren't in the room. You were playing GTA in this room, actually, while we were in the living room. Then the fourth one was with Eli Sussman. He's the lead writer for the Marlins SB Nation.
Okay.
And that was kind of, that was more for me than anything else. It wasn't really even, I just wanted to experience it. And then the latest one, the one that was recorded back in March, was with Brennan over his music. We had to wait till his album dropped. We went through that. It was a pretty good podcast. We ended up having a really good conversation. And you did make an appearance in that one. At the end.
I had a little section at the end there.
At the end. Not very many people saw that. If I had to guess, it's a long video.
I wasn't seen, but I was definitely heard if y'all decided to make it to the end of that video.
Which I would suggest going back and watching, if you haven't already. That was my favorite so far. I don't know. You have a lot to top here. You will definitely be more substantial if you can make this my favorite podcast. Which this is very spring of the moment. This was not planned in any way, shape, or form. We went and played indoor golf today, and then got back, watched the OU game, and I ran to the bathroom, got out, and I was like, hey, you want to make a podcast?
Well, I would hope that this would be your favorite podcast, speaking to...
Yeah,
I'm basically your brother now, so...
I
figure that should have some kind of...
It has something, but
bias.
you have to have a conversation.
I'm having a conversation right now.
But you have to have a substantial conversation.
All right, let's get into it.
We got to get in depth.
Let's get into it.
My first thought, this is I usually write some stuff down, some little clips, and typically I run through them so quick, and then it just kind of spouts off from there. But today I got 3 ideas. We went over them before the video, and then we're just rolling with it. My plan is that we don't see each other that much anymore. I made my trips up to OSU, but we don't see each other near as much anymore. And
We still keep in contact on a daily basis, though.
No, but that's all I'm saying. Like, so I want you to be a reoccurring guest on here, so that way you turn into substantial. Like, we just continuously have some really good conversations, and if I can't get like a different guest, you would definitely be my first go-to, because me and you.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's not really any other person I can really think of that would be like, yeah, I'd want to talk to them for 2 hours every time I can't think of a video idea.
I mean, that's every day for us. It's some kind of conversation that lasts.
And 90% of the time, it's you ending with, God, you're an idiot.
We're calling you a fucking donut.
A donut. But my idea was for this video is we're just going to run through some of our greatest stories, and then I did just think of something that I want to go over after we get done with some of these stories, because I think it's a pretty cool idea that we just got done talking about today, and I think it could definitely go somewhere. You have no idea what I'm talking about, and I'm just going to leave it. We're not...
Alright. I'm a little nervous, but...
So the first thing I want to go over, just a story I want to reminisce on, because we talk about it a lot.
We joke about it a lot.
It's probably our most, like... I'm assuming you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's probably our most, biggest memory together. And it was in February of 2018.
That wasn't 18, was it?
Yeah. It wasn't 19.
It was 18, because I was 16. I just turned 16.
Yeah, it was February 2018. I can't give you a date. I can tell you what... I can tell you what was said before. I can tell you what was said after. I can tell you what song was playing while we were in the car, but I can't tell you the date. I can...
The most non-corresponding song that you could possibly have to that incident.
Okay, so let's run through the whole story. We had just gotten done with baseball practice. We had a game the next day, literally the next day. So we had a shortened practice. It's pretty cold outside. We're getting into the baseball flow. Me and I'm a pitcher. You're a catcher. Not in the gay way. And
just gotta throw that one out there. We do wear our socks, though. I will throw that out there.
I'm wearing them right now.
I got mine on.
They're not very tall, but they're on. And so we spent a lot of time together outside of baseball. That
probably
didn't sound
too much at times, but
probably. I mean, like I said earlier, we never really didn't create any problems. We had some other relationships at the time that are not standing today.
Yeah, we'll leave those out of it for...
So, it was a Friday. We're coming back from school, and you gotta go by your house to pick some stuff up. So...
We gotta tell them about the drive there,
conversations. That's what we're getting into. So, it's a rainy day.
It wasn't rainy at the time. It was rain.
Post-rain. Yeah. But the roads were very slick. And, Jameson had just had his license for 3 months.
2.5.
2.5. Well, no, it was about 3. No, 2. It was really only 2.
December to January. About 2.5.
About 2.5 months. So, Jameson is a big car guy. We should probably start there. You are...
Yeah. Very big car guy. Always been into him since I was a little kid. Growing up in Texas Panhandle, my great-grandfather used to own a dirt track racing company, and that's what really kind of got me into it, and then it just kind of took off from there. It's always been one of the bigger things in my life is my love for cars.
And with that love of cars comes a love of drifting.
Well...
Not necessarily always.
That's getting a little bit ahead of the point there of the situation.
No, because you definitely hit a drift on the way home on a certain corner that I can think of.
Did I really?
Yeah.
The only thing I remember from that drive home is blasting "We Own It" out of the speaker and then cutting off someone who cut me off at a light.
Yes, that happened right after you hit the drift. So...
Yeah, I had a bad tendency for that.
You were like, hey, it's raining outside. I got good control. We're just going to drift around. So that led to a conversation where I said...
Well, we started out with, what's your dream house, basically?
Well, no. I'm going to go with the first, which was, he kind of like apologized for it. He's like, I just want to make sure you're like comfortable in making that moves. And I was like, yeah, I trust you more than I trust anybody else driving. Word for word. I said, I feel safer in a car with you than I would anybody else. And, we kind of like left that remark behind. So we're on our way to his house, and, we start talking about like some future stuff. So like dream house, dream job, dream car.
And we get around to our dream house setup, and mine was, I want good size house. Doesn't have to be too big. Probably small 2-story house would be perfect. And then I want a lot of land so that I can have my own shop to work on cars with a 1/4-mile track on it, and then a actual track so I can track cars, and then cars that I'm wanting to do like a drag build on, I can test those out as well and just kind of see what works and what doesn't with what I'm doing in the shop. And that brought up another question that I asked Presley here, and it was, if you had a choice on how you died, how would you want to go out?
Pretty sure my answer was like cancer or something like that. Like very simple, like very just, I don't want to live to be too old, but like I'm not going to go too much into detail with that. But Jameson's remark was,
way that I want to go out is I want to go out pushing my favorite car to its limits, to the point of where the car goes out with me in that kind of sense. Kind of, I don't really know how to put it into words, but like if the car were to go out, I want to go out with it, and
you want to go
vice
out,
versa.
And you want it to go out at your peak and its peak. That was also something you said, if
Very
I
true.
remember correctly. And I also should like put it in perspective. This car is what, a 2002?
It's a janky old 2003 Nissan Xterra. It's a 5-speed manual. Got a shit ass inline 4 in it. Thing had 250 miles on it, and
but the thing had
probably the most well-functioning car I've ever had, besides my 2012 Toyota Camry, and we have stories about that one as well that we'll get to in the future.
But we made a lot of memories in there. Well, like a lot of very positive memories. Like we hung out in the, like after baseball, we'd all load up in there, and we'd all
that car is
bang
actually
music. We had a fake Supreme sticker that we put.
I had a steering wheel made by Supreme. Got it specially delivered to me because I'm just an important person that's not so important to the public, according to Presley.
And it was actually the first time I got my glove. My mom left it in your car.
It's very true.
We had a Super Bowl. We took it to a Super Bowl party, and then the Monday morning we left ice in the car, so I threw it outside of the car.
Yep.
I was completely sober and threw my head out the window and screamed music out of the car. Like there's a lot of
not just music. It was a very key song to our lives at the time, and that was "Danger" by Migos. And Presley, dumbass here, got himself kicked off the baseball team, so as a tribute to him, I used that as my walk-up song my junior year, and actually ended up going on to have my best year as a high school baseball player.
It was the walk-up song.
Oh, for sure. I mean, you walk into the box and hear that, I mean, puts fear in the other player's eyes.
We get to his house. We stay for a little bit. I believe we were hung around for a second, and then we waited on your mom to get there, just so you could talk to her real quick. And,
well, no, my mom had actually called us and asked us to wait because my insurance card for my car insurance had just come in the mail, and she needed to give it to me. So she gives it to me. We talk about it for a second, and on the way out, my dumbass decides it's a good idea to turn around and say, plan on using this in the next couple minutes. And then I walk out the door, get in the car, and we start driving. And at the time I lived in a house that was down some pretty windy back roads, and for my likingness of drifting a car, it was very fun to drive down, and I got very, very good at drifting around corners in wet or dry weather. So the way that it's the way that the road is conformed is you come around 2 small little turns, and then you got about a 1/8 mile just dead straight road coming up to a 90-degree turn. So we're driving down that road, and something brought up the conversation, but it resulted in Presley saying, honestly, I feel safer whenever you're going pedal to the floor and driving a little bit crazy. I don't know why, but I trust you more doing that than driving safe. It just feels more normal that way. And I was like, all right, screw it. Drop a gear and punch it. We get up to the turn. I dropped down, and we had probably hit about 60 down that road. So I drop down to about 25, 30 miles an hour, drop from 3rd to 2nd gear, and completely forgot that it had rained earlier in the day, so I tried to drift it like it was dry because it was sunny outside. Weren't many clouds in sight. And the road's still a little bit slick from the rain being on the ground, obviously, and the oil being up on the road. So I drop it down in a second, hammer the gas pedal, get us to start sliding. Well, the back end kicks out a little bit more than I expect it to because it's slick. And whenever I go to correct myself, it results in us going into a ditch and try to pull us out of a ditch without hitting the fence or coming to a complete stop, which I did fairly successfully until the future happened. And so we hit the lip of the grass in the road, and it yanks my car to where I am basically perpendicular to the road, and my front tires were completely off the ground, so I couldn't steer. And there's a car coming towards us.
That car is speeding a little bit.
They were there. It's a 40 mile an hour zone. They were probably doing 50. So I noticed that if I don't try to steer the car in one way or shape or form, so the car's off, he was going to nail Presley's door. So I'm like, okay, better front end of the car or my side, if anything, than him. So I turn the wheel as far as it can to the right. Wheels hit the ground, jerks us just enough to where the car comes across the Tacoma that is heading towards us and hits my front end, and we basically hit head on.
All right, we got that out of us.
But no, so basically what happened is I couldn't get my driver door open because the way that I'd hit the car, it had shoved the frame backwards to where the door is basically crunched against the back driver's side door. So I was having to throw my shoulder into the door to get it to even open up just a tad, and even at that point, it was so pushed in that I could only get it enough to where I could barely get myself out, and I was having to basically squeeze out of it. So I get out of it, and my first thought is to immediately, obviously after checking on Presley before I got out of the car, my thought was immediately to run over and make sure that they're okay, because obviously I'm the one who caused the wreck, so I'm going to make sure that they're okay, and if something needs to be done, I'm going to take care of it. So I run over to them, and the driver could understand English but didn't speak it too well. And then there was a passenger in the front passenger seat and then one in the back. I asked all three of them if they were okay. They all said yes. And now, 2 years later, I am being sued because apparently one of them hurt their back, and they're claiming that there was only one person in the car. They actually dipped as soon as the cops pulled up. Just left the car there pretty much. Completely disappeared. But that's about how that went, which I'm not going to get into it too much, but it's pretty stupid. But I think we're going to win it, so I'm not too concerned about it.
But definitely, like, this is a shitty spot. I mean, obviously nobody wants to wreck a car. You know, I just went through that.
I've been through two.
It's not fun. Nobody wants to wreck a car. Nobody wants to go through the process of getting a new car or whatnot. But definitely is going to be a story that sits with us for a long time. Like, probably definitely something our kids are going to hear about a million times.
And for those of you wondering, which we mentioned earlier in the video, the song that was playing during the wreck was Good Life by G-Eazy featuring
Kalani. But neither of us... Okay, but like that doesn't really make sense. Like you have to know us, and at the time, most of our stuff on like our playlists and stuff were kind of dark and hype. It was either really hype or really dark. Like we had some old X in there and stuff. Like really no in between. That was the only song that was like.
We had one or two songs that were very upbeat, just vibrant. Happy.
Yeah,
just
and that was definitely
screw around songs pretty much, and that was one of them.
And I don't know why that like stuck with us, but like there are certain parts of the wreck that I can like vividly remember. But like like I remember the car slipping out, and then the next thing I remember is like we were being close to the fence, and then I remember the car hitting the other car and getting out, and then like after the wreck, but. For some reason, like a week later, neither of us have really talked about it. Like we just made sure, but like the next day, whatever, we had a game. We talked about it a little bit, like both of us being okay. But then about a week later, we were somewhere else. I don't remember if we were driving around or if we were just like listening to music in one of our rooms or something like that. And Good Life came on, and for some reason, both of us remembered like. One of us looked at each other and was like, this is the song that was playing that was like when we wrecked, and we both acknowledged that it was. I don't know. It was really weird the fact that we both remembered, because I can't remember what song was playing in my last wreck. I don't know if you can remember what was playing whenever your second wreck was. But I can tell you, I can't remember what was playing.
I don't remember what was playing in my second wreck because I had a shit ass 2003 GMC Yukon, and you had to listen to the radio and the radio only. That car was so fucked that even the radio, even on the stations that are based here in Weatherford, would
cut out,
staticky. So I pretty much just turned it off for the most part.
But I mean, that's by far probably like our. I'm not gonna say best memory together, but it's up there.
It's one of the most iconic.
I'm not saying like the results of it were best. I definitely think it made us a lot closer in the long run. Like, not that we went through anything traumatic like my most recent one, but which that one will be heard in the next one, because my next guess is I'm just gonna say my roommate. I'm not gonna say his name yet. So we put a lot of baseball together. A lot of games from Little League to freshman year to JV. We went through a lot of stuff through that time.
When it came to strictly defense, we were probably the best battery that has ever blown through Weatherford baseball when it comes to statistics with each other.
But, the coaches didn't like us, so...
I mean, you get suspended... For me, freshman and sophomore year, at least 8 games each year, and then for you...
Just sophomore year. And then didn't play a game junior year. But, I mean, the coaches, we also didn't... we're not going to go into that. But
there was one coach we didn't get along with well, and then the others were very supportive of us, but sadly the head coach was the one that we didn't click with too well.
And so he kind of had, he has power, so we didn't get, our best games were together, but we didn't get every game. Like, the more important ones to me are the ones that he caught me, but you were by far the best catcher that we had in our class. Like, it wasn't even close. In fact, I think you ended up becoming the only catcher we had in our class, virtually. Mm-hmm. So, but there's one, we just went over the memory that stands out to me the most that we can go over on here. But the memory in baseball that stands out to me the most is a specific game. It was our freshman year. We were in Keller.
Timber Creek to be exact.
I mean, okay, well, I guess the biggest baseball memory I have, it wasn't specifically with you, but I was sick on the bus ride, and then
I remember that.
Whenever I held it in the whole time, just like I had to sleep through it, and then we get off the bus for a doubleheader on a Saturday in the morning, and I pushed you off the bus. Like, I literally pushed you and your catcher bag off the bus so I could run to the right, and I threw up everywhere. And then I ended up pitching the second game, but that's a story for another day. But this game specifically was a night game, weeknight, just your casual game. Keller, Timber Creek was one of those schools that, instead of going based off innings, they kind of did more like you can either play 7 innings or you get 2.5 hours. So we get there, we're pretty hyped up, ready to go, and they had a kid starting who had a lot of potential but couldn't pick between 2 sports, so therefore both sports that he played, his talent and athleticism suffered. But he threw hard, and that's what they want. They want people who throw hard. So couldn't hit the strike zone very well. And
I wouldn't even call it that. I think if you have an umpire that would expand the strike zone by about 5 feet in every direction, you might even have to dig a hole under home plate for him to get it across home plate at times. You might be able to throw a strike at that point, but it's still very questionable. But I mean, every pitch that was thrown except for maybe 1 or 2 out of the probably 70 pitches he threw in one inning were 5 feet over my head, left or right of me, and he ended up walking in 5 runs that inning?
No. And he actually, okay, so like for a little perspective, he threw, at 14 years old, he threw like 82 miles per hour, and I threw like 65. I was by far the most effective pitcher in our class, but
you also focused on movement and accuracy.
Yeah, but they don't care about that. Our school was more, if he throws hard, he's our best player. So he got the start, and basically threw probably 3 strikes to 5 straight hitters and walked in a run. And they were like, just precautionary. They were just like, hey, Presley, go warm up. So I go start warming up. And then the next thing I know, I look up the scoreboard, 6-0, a 3-0 count with the bases loaded and ball 4. And I see our coach walk out to the mound, and I'm like, oh, okay. So he grabs the ball, he calls me over, so I go in. And it's kind of getting dark. Both of us have pretty bad eyesight. Like, we had to do hand signs like on chest and stuff because I couldn't see the plate and whatnot, or like the actual signs. And he couldn't
see my hands. I can see decently well at night, especially in baseball, because the ball is white, obviously. So I mean, under the lights, like, it's very easy to see because it doesn't blend in well with the black background. But like, when it comes to like stuff being similar colors, that's when I do struggle with eyesight. But when it's very contrasting colors, I can see extremely well.
And at this point, we're 45 minutes into our half of the inning, like playing defense. And you're pretty beaten up, like we said. You couldn't throw. You wasn't.
I think I batted. What did I bat? Probably 6th,
7th was my guess.
I batted probably 6th or 7th. And my first at bat of the game, I'd actually injured my back on my first swing, and I didn't swing again just because of it. And I've always struggled with back problems since I was in 7th grade. So obviously it's not a fun thing to have, especially being a catcher where you're up and down.
Especially when you're up and down on every single pitch, because you have to block balls in the dirt. And, like I said, 45 minutes into an inning, no fun for a catcher, no fun for anybody. And I come in, and I think the only word, like, I could tell you're pissed off, and the only word, we weren't like near as close as we are now at the time. No. And the only words he could get out to me were, just throw a damn strike.
I think I walked up to the mound and said, throw a fucking strike, and then just turned around and walked off.
And I ended up going like 4 innings that game, didn't let up a hit. I got out of the final score was 7-0, and like I think they got 1 hit off another pitcher throughout the rest of the game. Like, it was just, they couldn't hit we threw a 1-hitter and lost 7-0. Like, it was a problem.
The thing with this kid is, when it comes to corners, he is Pablo Picasso, and when it comes to his curveball, it's untouchable.
Unless you're you.
Correct, but that's also because I've caught it. I know the movement on it. It's not that hard to do whenever you expect it.
Except when you turn around and bunt.
Yeah, don't square to bunt on this kid. He'll peg you in the cock. It's not a fun time, but that's a story for another day as well.
But basically, there was nothing like too special. It's Like, especially because that season you'd see me pitch. I was pretty fluid that season. I played some pretty high-class teams that season, even if they were just freshmen. And
it was definitely the start of a legacy for the two of us when it came to playing baseball together for the short amount of time we were able to play high school baseball together.
And the one thing that stands out to me is the end of the year, we're having our exit meetings. I didn't get anything about it because obviously it was a good game for me.
Yep.
But you got something about it.
Yeah, so pretty much I go in for my exit meeting, and our our freshman team head coach just kind of sits in the back because the head coach takes
too much control.
Yeah, he doesn't let other coaches speak in meetings, and they can't butt in or else they're frowned upon for the rest of their lives. And I'm being frankly honest. That's how he views everyone if you do anything against him. So I sit down, and he's like, well, you need to go get your eyes checked. And I'm like, the hell are you talking about, dude? I just went and got an eye appointment went to an eye doctor's appointment the other day. Like, my eyesight is perfectly fine. I barely even have to wear glasses right now. And he's like, well, I noticed you couldn't see the ball too well at Timber Creek. And back then...
Mind you, he's not at the game.
No. Nowhere near it. Doesn't care to be. Doesn't care to pay any attention to our stats. Just holds grudges, pretty much. And I had been suspended for the first 12 games of that season, so I was already a target for him, which was stupid, but sometimes that's how life rolls. You get people like that, and you just got to deal with it. But he tells me I need to go get my eyesight checked. And I'm like, the hell are you talking about, dude? And he's like, well, I noticed you couldn't see the ball too well against Timber Creek. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And he's like, well, you couldn't catch anything Brennan was throwing. And back then when it came to standing up for myself, I wouldn't necessarily say I was a puss, but when it came to elders, I just kind of kept my mouth shut.
It was almost like we're 14 years old. It's almost like a respect thing.
Yeah, out of respect for him, I know what I'm capable of, and I'm just going to leave it at that. But I was like, okay, whatever. And so I kind of made a little chirp at it, and I was like, well, I could see Presley's pitches, and whoever came in after that just fine. And yeah, they don't throw as hard, but they put a hell of a lot more movement on it than he does. And he's like, oh, well, they just don't throw as hard, so it's easier to see. I'm like, dude, get behind the plate for a game and see how well you do when someone can't throw within 10 feet of your body.
I don't know. We're not going to get into the problems that we have with the baseball program right now.
I would really love to.
We're not going to.
Fun fact, this kid broke a fucking wiffle bat over my back.
Well, should we get into that? Yeah, we can get into that. Screw it. Back in February? It was right before COVID. All that. We have a friend that we no longer really consider a friend. And, but at the time, he was pretty close to both
There's
of us.
no bad blood between us.
It's just
to clear it up, it's just
growing
distance.
Apart.
Yeah.
This is how it was. We aged. He aged a different way. We found that we should still be friends, basically, but he would not be a part of that anymore. So we go to his party. At the time, we're still friends. We go to his party. We had a surprise party for him that day, I believe, if I do remember so correct.
Yep. Yeah. I showed up late.
And
as always,
we go through it. And that night, we are not sober. In fact, you were pretty sober. You just come back to the party, and I was not. I was, the person who the party was being thrown for had overdone a little bit, way too blackout, and everybody was focused on what he was doing, just making sure he was taken care of. And while they were doing that, I kept drinking. And the way I am when I'm drunk is I'm very friendly. I love you. Thank you for being my friend. I appreciate you a lot. Gives a lot of hugs.
Give me a hug.
Give me a hug. Yeah, you hear that a lot. So he walks back. You know, he had to go take somebody home because they weren't allowed to stay. And he comes back. He comes to the door.
Backstory, I just got off the phone with a very unhappy conversation with the fam, so I was a little bit irritated when I got back, and when I'm irritated, I don't want to be touched.
I didn't know this. I was not aware of this, obviously. I was not sober. So he walks to the door, and I was like, Jameson, you're back. Give me a hug. I'm like 10 times more messed up than when he left. So he wasn't there. He didn't know I was just absolutely slammed. And so he gives me a hug. About 5 minutes later, I go upstairs for a little while. I come back down. I see him again, and I'm like, Jameson, give me a hug. He hugs me again. Well, about 10 minutes later, they're dealing with them. He's downstairs with my stepbrother. They're in the kitchen. They're having a conversation. And I come down and did the same thing. I gave like 2 other people a hug, and I walked up to Jameson and said, hey, give me a hug. And he said, not right now, and kind of like pushed me back. And I was like, why not? He said, I'm just not in the mood. And so I was like, oh, really? I found the nearest object to me, picked up a wiffle ball bat, and did I hit you once, or was it multiple times?
You bent it on the first one, snapped it in half on the second one.
Yeah.
And this is a plastic wiffle ball bat.
Yeah.
Those bitches are hard to break.
I hit him pretty hard. I mean, I'm pretty aggressive. Like, very nice drunk, but like, until you piss me off. So we go through that, and then I have been sent videos of it, but I went upstairs. He was obviously pretty mad at me, and I went upstairs and I was like crying because you were mad at me. I don't know if you've seen the videos of that or not, but that was probably the biggest fight we got into, because the next day you were like, oh, you were drunk, I was just in a bad mood. It's not a big deal. I'm not mad about it, but we got over it. I feel like that it's one of the lesser, like, shorter stories we have, but it's definitely another one that we'll remember for a while. It's just, we have a lot of lessons to tell our kids. That's
facts. No, this kid's probably the one kid in my life that has stuck through me through thick and thin. Really thick at one point. I made a pretty big mistake in my life. Really big actually. It's my only regret. I'm not going to get into it on podcast just for personal reasons, but
I'll just say it has to do with the girl. There was a big argument.
Yeah, we'll leave it at that. But I made a really bad decision, and it pretty much turned everyone, including my closest friends, excluding Presley, against me, and everyone was pretty much anti-Jameson for about a 6-month span. And Presley is the only person that really stuck by my side and said, that ain't him. He's not that type of person. He made a mistake. He made a drunken mistake. And basically was a person that kind of stood by my side, pretty much kept me going, kept me like in everything.
I mean, you got it. You definitely got it from me.
Yeah.
At like behind closed doors, but I wasn't.
Yeah, I definitely got some earfuls from Presley, and like it's not like the aggressive earfuls that you're thinking of. It's more like supportive, like I'm mad at you, but
not really. I was never really mad at you. It was more like
I'm just getting the point across. So like,
yeah,
you were disappointed in me, but like you're not gonna hold it over my head. Like you still support me. So we were in a very.
It's okay. For starters, it's sophomore year, so we're I was the youngest. So
well, it's going into junior year as well. So it's pretty much into sophomore year through that summer, and then into junior year.
I guess
as well.
No, it was beginning of junior. I guess.
Well, it started.
I was literally barely 16.
He was definitely the kid that kind of backed me up, but like he was gonna make sure I didn't do it again, pretty much.
And I guess I can say a lot. I mean, I made a mistake my junior year, and wasn't really near to the same extremes. I mean, like, there are definitely more repercussions for it.
I don't know if you can come close to mine without doing what I did.
Yeah, but like the mistake I made was...
It resulted worse in your life because
yes.
of the people that found out about it.
Yes. So, my mistake, and everybody was sitting there telling me like, you're an idiot. Like, you made the mistake. They held it over my head really hard. And, I go on, I make a college baseball team, and after that thing happened, where I lose my spot in high school. I never played an inning of varsity baseball, and I go on to play varsity baseball or college baseball, and going through that and never hearing like family say, "Oh, I'm proud of you," but like you're the only person that I've heard "I'm proud of you" from.
You were actually contemplating quitting at one point, and was I the only person that told you to stick with it?
I think it was just you and my dad.
Yeah, so my biggest thing has always been, if you're good at something, don't quit unless you have something that you can fall back on equally as well. And catching you for the years that I did, knowing what you're capable of, even catching your bullpens after I quit the team, like, I know you can do big things with baseball if you really put your heart into it, but I also know that good things do come to an end at times, and that's just based off personal preference of that. But I know
yours did.
Huh?
As yours did.
Correct.
But I
also had varsity golf to fall back on. Like, should I give them the backstory of that?
Where are we starting from?
Well, like, just like my falling back on golf.
Yeah.
Much. So like the way that I did it was, I got to the point where I was like, all right, I'm done with baseball. Like,
I was already gone.
Yeah, Presley had already been removed from the team. And without him, it was kind of lonely at the top of the shit list at that point. And I was pretty much the only person. Like, the rule was no long hair, no facial hair. And you look at all the varsity guys that are real coaches' pets, they all either had decently long hair or facial hair. Never got in trouble. But every day I walked into baseball with even the slightest 5 o'clock shadow on my face. Like, I had long hair and I didn't give a shit if I got told to cut it. I didn't cut it. But like, I got in trouble for it and I had to run for it, which I didn't care. I was over it. I knew I was going to quit at the end of the semester because I was just using it as
fuel.
Not even fuel, just kind of getting in the weight room, still keeping my weight up, stuff like that. And then I was able to still practice golf because I worked at a golf course. And I had a buddy that worked with me at the golf courses on the golf team, and he was constantly talking to the golf coach about me. And I actually ended up getting the golf coach as a teacher for one of my classes. So all first semester of senior year, he's like, "Oh, come try out for the golf team. Oh, come try out for the golf team. I want to see you play." So one day, late December, around my birthday, or I guess kind of early December, I told our baseball coach that I had a dentist appointment the next day. He's like, "Okay." And so I didn't have a dentist appointment. I went home, changed my golf stuff, grabbed my clubs, drove out to a golf course here in Weatherford, and did my tryout. Exchanged numbers with coach at the end, and he said he'd call me and talk to me in a couple hours. So I'm like, okay. So I go sit down for dinner with a couple friends, and I get a call. So I step outside, and I answer the phone, and he's like, "Hey, I just want you to know that if you want it, the number 3 spot on varsity is yours to take it. You'll be our number 3 varsity going into every single varsity tournament," which basically means I was the 3rd best player on the golf team. And I immediately called my mom because that was her requirement, is make sure you have a sport to fall back on. Just because, like, she didn't want me to waste high school pretty much. So I was like, all right, I'm going to make the golf team then. So I call her and I'm like, "Hey, just got a call from coach. I'm number 3 on varsity. If I want it and if you're okay with it, I'm going to take it." Her immediate reaction is, "Yes, go for it. I know that's where you want to be, so go for it." So I call him back immediately and I'm like, "I'm there." So go up the next day, pretty much quit baseball in somewhat disrespectful way, but if I had a chance to go back, I wouldn't change it. But like with Presley, I don't see him as someone that's able to go out on something else. Like, I honestly think that he could become a pitcher for a good D1 college or 4-year college school, and possibly even make it to the draft one day if he really works at it. and that's why I'm so excited and I love watching him play, because the art that he creates with his pitching is like, it's not something you see every day, because nowadays like people just focus on lighting up the radar gun.
Do you remember what got you into like golf whatsoever? Because I remember the exact night.
No, not really.
Your 17th birthday. We went to Top Golf.
Oh yeah.
And we were playing, and you were just hitting absolute bombs.
Nukes.
And me and you were the only two there that knew how to swing a golf club. I might not have been able to do it very good, but I could swing one. And the one thing I said I was going to bring up later, right? So we were talking about it today, and we're thinking about starting a golf YouTube channel.
Yes.
You know, now that we've gone through the whole golf thing, we're thinking about starting a golf YouTube channel with me, him, another friend, and one of your buddies at OSU. I bet Colby on it too.
Yeah, I might be able to bring in one of my guys at Oklahoma State that will kick my ass up and down the course, sadly. But it's fun. So.
And I think with that, like, you know, our model would be some pretty big golfers on YouTube right now. You know, that I know a lot of people have gotten into golf since COVID has started. I'm one of those people that have started playing like consistently.
Shout out to GM Golf.
And I think what we're gonna do, like my planning would be, is we all have like our own channels, and we do like almost a house for it, like a main channel.
Mm-hmm.
And
kind of like what they do with Good.
Yeah,
much.
It would be more centered towards entertainment though than skill, because
for the time being,
you and Colby are the only two right now that.
Me and Colby can be more of like the skills channel, whereas Presley and Josh will be more directed at the entertainment level. But whenever we all come together, whether it's just me and Presley and Josh, or if I can get Colby down here, the four of us, then that's when it'll become more skill and
entertainment.
Yeah, that's entertainment based.
I think we could do something like, it's a little hard right now because all three of y'all go to OSU, but I'm stuck about 2.5 hours south of there.
And which isn't too bad. But
it's not too bad, but like with baseball going on in this semester, you know, I'm looking at
you don't have a car.
And I don't have a car, but that's a story for the next episode. So, but I think what could definitely be done is starting next summer, this upcoming summer, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
It would definitely be taking off, and there would be a lot of planning in the background for the next, you know, like conversations and stuff over the next 5 months could definitely be started. You know, I feel like my editing skills are definitely somewhat there. You know, I'll make these, you know, we're 57 minutes nearly into this, and it'll be cut down to like a 45-minute video, if that. But I can put in some pretty good stuff. I feel like I think we could definitely cause some entertainment level there.
My fucking ear itches. That ever happened to y'all?
Are you expecting them to answer?
No, I'm just asking them a question for them to answer themselves.
I mainly wanted to do this as an introductory kind of thing. Because like I said, him and my next podcast, you know, it's the guy I live with. So he'll probably feature in a few of them. But I definitely see them coming back on multiple times. And I feel like, you know, when we're doing that, it's easier to introduce that person one-on-one. And, you know, eventually it'll be me and you interviewing somebody else. Or, you know, me interviewing somebody else. Or I would say I trust you enough to interview somebody else, but that's kind of the job I'm supposed to be doing here because it's my channel. So, but I definitely think, you know, giving that inside view, you were not doing much tonight, and I felt like it was definitely something to kill time and get something out there. I don't upload very much, which I'm actually going to have a video coming up after this explaining the plans with this channel and where it's going to go.
Yeah, y'all can follow me on Instagram. It's crownover_28, all lowercase.
Focus. There we go. And I'm going to link it down below. And speaking of the golf things, one of the guys we just mentioned, he started a golf Instagram. I started a golf Instagram, and right after this, I'm going to make you start a golf Instagram. So I'll link all 3 of those down below. And I have 2 video ideas coming up after this. If we go do the indoor simulator tomorrow, that video, I'll record that, and that video will be prior to this. And then I have a video explaining where this channel is going to go after this. So we do have some stuff lined up, hopefully some content to put out there, but I enjoyed it. I'd just like to thank you guys for watching. Like I said, this is Jameson in letters right here. Spell it out. Can you spell
DWV?
No, we're gonna spell it. Ready?
JAMESON. Y'all go rest y'all's night, boys.
We'll see you later.
Those gorgeous blue eyes, they look even better when we're sky high. If we can leave this place, wouldn't you love to run